Good afternoon, and thanks so much to everyone for joining us this afternoon. My name's Tris Scott-Daraja, and I'm the Manager of Engagement and Partnerships in the School of Creative Arts and Media. So we've got a lot of content to cover today, introducing you to some of our courses in art and design, media, music, theatre and performance. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I'm standing on today and that our campuses stand on, the Muwinina people of Lutruwita, and I acknowledge with deep respect the traditional owners and pay my respects to elders past and present and to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community that continues to care for country. On the webinar today, we have Dr. Jan Hogan, who is our Head of Fine Arts. Dr. Claire Conkers unfortunately has had to pass on her apologies this afternoon, but I have Dr. Arabella Tenniswood-Harvey, who is our Head of Music, and Dr. Jane Woolard, who is our Head of Theatre and Performance, who will be able to talk to you about the courses in their disciplines. So I think one of the really great things about studying creative arts in Tasmania is Tasmania itself. It's a small island and it has a heart of creativity. So when students come to study here, they're really immersed in the creative culture and are able to become part of the bustling creative scene here. We have purpose-built campuses that are based in both Hobart and in Launceston. We have state-of-the-art, inspiring campuses. So our art school is based right down on the waterfront. Our media school is based in the heritage area, again down on the waterfront. Theatre and performance is based in a custom-built and custom-designed space in Launceston, and we are absolutely delighted to have just opened our purpose-built new Conservatorium of Music at the School of Music, which is in, we're calling that space the Hedberg. And Arabella will be able to talk a little bit about that later on in the seminar. We've got courses at undergraduate level, postgraduate level, postgraduate by coursework and research degrees as well. And I think, you know, it's really exciting to be immersed in the entire creative scene, and the whole island really is the campus of our students. So our campuses are surrounded by museums, galleries, performance venues. You might have heard of MONA, the Museum of Old and New Art, that's just on the outskirts of Hobart. We've got QV Mag, the Queen Victoria Museum and Art Gallery, TMAG in Hobart, and there are boutique galleries and art centres that students can really immerse themselves in. Our creative arts students are supported through their studies with us through all sorts of exciting opportunities. We have work integrated learning that's embedded in all of our courses. So students have the opportunity to undertake real world experience with organisations like the Monofoma Festival and Dark Mofo Festival that are both affiliated with MONA. 10 days on the island, we've got the Falls Festival. We have a really rich exhibition and performance program for students. So we have a whole calendar of events that students can get involved in throughout the year, from the grad show to film festivals and gallery exhibitions. And there's an opportunity for our students to really engage with the creatives in the community. So we've got artist in residence programs and forums, master classes that bring together some of the world's leading creative artists with our students. I talked a little bit before about our purpose-built and inspiring campuses, and they truly are beautiful. The art school, when students are painting, they've got the backdrop of the Derwent River behind them to inspire their art. So there are a few more inspiring places in the world to study the creative arts. And our courses are really practice-based, so there's a strong emphasis on learning by making or learning by doing, and we have all of the facilities available to help students in that space. We are deeply embedded within the creative sector, so we've got partnerships with plenty of local industry partners. So we partner with the Tasmanian Symphony Orchestra, with the Monofoma Festival, with the Falls Festival, and these are all opportunities for students to really learn and explore what's available to them in their career. I've got a short video that I'd like to play you that gives that shows the Hedberg, which is the purpose-built creative arts hub that we have just opened in the past couple of weeks. Oops, sorry. Let me try that again. Oops. So I'd like to now hand over to Dr. Jane Woolard, who will talk to you about performance and theatre.
Thanks, Tris. In the Theatre and Performance major, which is housed within the Bachelor of Arts, students embark on practice-led learning to develop their skills as creative, critical, and resilient practitioners. Through critical and reflective engagement with performances, culture, history, and theory, students learn how to manage creative projects, lead collaborative processes, and develop communication and problem-solving skills. They develop practical and technical skills for performance with wider artistic, social, political, and environmental contexts, exploring the best of contemporary theatre practice. Through work-integrated learning projects, students have the ability to create original work in acclaimed Tasmanian festivals like Dark Mofo, 10 Days on the Island, The Unconformity, and the Junction Arts Festival. Our students study at the Annex Theatre or at the Hedberg in Hobart in dedicated working theatres and studios. Through the unique blend of practice-based and theoretical offerings in this major, they learn how to pursue a sustainable practice and gain highly transferable skills, which are valuable in a range of career pathways within the creative industries and beyond. Can we have the next slide, please, Tris? So in first year, we build foundational theatre skills and knowledge through practical exploration and learn how these skills are applied in diverse performance contexts, on stage and backstage. In Performance Skills 1, we explore foundational voice and movement skills and investigate how the performer integrates their work with the elements of theatre. In the Theatre Machine, we explore how the theatre generates meaningful experiences for audiences. Through the hands-on exploration of techniques and technologies ranging from the traditional to the cutting edge, students acquire foundational technical skills, design processes, and the safe work practices required to achieve a production design. In second year, we build on these foundations to engage with the histories and traditions of theatre and performance. In Performance Skills 2, we use practice-based approaches to interpreting, designing, and performing scenes from a canonical performance text. Students develop skills in research and the interpretation of contextual material. Practice-based explorations of theatre craft and form are supported by the study of performance theories and methodologies, and students learn how thematic interpretation of content can be represented through the elements of theatre. They continue to refine skills in moving from page to stage, working with a range of texts, both classical and contemporary, in playing text. Building on traditional modes of textual analysis, students critically engage with the varied ways that theatrical text can be interpreted and performed through vocal delivery, physical movement, spatial design, lighting, sound, and other dramaturgical practices. In third year, we apply techniques learnt in the previous 2 years and approach the complexity of devising theatre and crafting performance. In experimental production 1, students develop collaborative working practices to generate new work from a range of sources. In experimental production 2, they work with the lecturer on the development, rehearsal, and performance of a complete theatre production. This innovative performance project may incorporate interdisciplinary practice, network media, and cutting-edge theatre and performance practices. In the third-year unit, Scenography and Design, we investigate how the crafts of costume, set, lighting, and sound create performance environments to convey meaning and generate performance. Finally, in Global Media and Cyber Theatres, we examine the influence of new technologies in the theatre, informed by key theoretical and critical perspectives from the fields of performance studies and media studies, engaging with contemporary practitioners, working with virtual reality, social media networks, big data, algorithms, and surveillance technology, and exploring new paradigms of performance. To conclude, I will touch on the connection of our theatre and performance major to existing majors within the Bachelor of Arts. The disciplinary field of theatre and performance studies encompasses a broad spectrum of scholarship and practice. It includes the classic academic scholarship built on the study of history, texts, performance analysis, and critique, as well as the practices of theatre making itself, which includes an immense field of individual and embodied practices, including acting, stage management and design, as well as direction, dramaturgy, devising work, and script writing. Many of the fields of study within the Bachelor of Arts have close alignment and overlap with the practice of theatre making and critique, and offer complementary skills to emerging theatre makers that will strengthen both their capacity and their employability. Thanks, Tris.
Thanks so much, Jane. So now I've got Dr. Jan Hogan to talk about design and art.
Hello, welcome everybody. The Bachelor of Design degree is a course that is taken and split between two different disciplines, and that's the discipline of architecture and the discipline of fine arts. So it's not my area of expertise, but it is at the art school, where I'm the head of the art school. We we support the design degree through design minors. That's the object design, visual communication, object design and visual communication, whereas the creative technology and business entrepreneurship is supported far more through architecture. So the way that this design degree is situated is to give designers a really broad practice, so that they're going from answering a brief to business replies, to working with systems that are already in place, and technologies that are already in place, but also giving a real hands-on design experience where you're actually working with the materials. You're not just working in the virtual space, but you're working with handcraft tools as well. And we find that many people in Tasmania lead with this quite diverse range of skills. So even the whole concept of the School of Creative Arts and Media, we're actually finding that in Tasmania, and people who've come and worked in Tasmania, build these relationships so that we have mutual students in music and in art, because as many of you wouldn't have in the Asia Pacific region, you don't separate these things. So a really rich culture is integrated with a lot of different skills, so that you can't ever have a cultural background without a knowledge of the built environment, of the music environment, of theatre and the fine arts. And that's something that Tris was really emphasising in the idea of that Tasmania is this really rich community working together. So the design degree is set up with a really rich framework through architecture, where there are outside parameters that the course needs to address. It needs to answer and give industry partners knowledge that we can meet industry requirements. But then in the fine arts, they've also got this creative blend. So we're really situating people with an understanding of the professional and social responsibility, but with a real ability to creatively problem solve. Thank you.
Did you, Jan, were you happy to talk to the basic structure of the course?
Sure. So you can see here that there's a core knowledge that goes down with design thinking islands. That is done in collaboration with industry partners on the island. So they work with the 10 Days on the Islands team when that is running, which is every second year. But on other times, they think through this idea of what it means to be on an island. So they're thinking through sustainability and different ways in which design is a very important tool in solving real problems. Design thinking to clouds takes so these are both first year subjects. So it's giving that really core foundational knowledge around what design thinking is. It's not, as I said, my area of expertise. So that the core knowledge, I can't really explain too much about how they're going, but I think this will be being presented in another seminar with architecture. In design thinking 3 ecologies, that really taking people out into the environment. So there's field trips, something we really pride ourselves on in Tasmania. And then in design thinking 4 in communities, they can think through what it means to be in place. And this thinks through really the emphasis of the UTAS, emphasis on being a place-based university. And design thinking is really embedded in what it means to make in place and respond to situated problems. And then in design practices, there's the networks and futures. And these ones are answering far more that responding to industry practices. And you can see that as you go through that in the major, the framework of islands, clouds, ecologies and communities is also taken up, so that the theoretical and core knowledge is then taken through really practical solutions on how you can approach those conceptual problems. Thank you. Oh, and this is me. This one I know a bit more about. So at the School of Art, we have a fabulous building. It is an old jam factory, and I really can't emphasize enough how wonderful it is to come into this building. Really, if we could get you all to walk through, you would be absolutely convinced that you need to send your students here. It's a beautiful old jam factory that has on each floor major areas of expertise. So on the top floor we have painting, which has beautiful views overlooking the Derwent River and the bridge. And then we also have a printmaking studio, drawing studios, purpose-built. We have sculpture, time-based media, and visual communication. So that's our Hobart site. We also have a beautiful old building in Launceston that has a beautiful spread out industrial relationship, which is quite different. We've got beautiful old wooden beams, whereas in Launceston they have large scale industrial landscape. But both places offer a core thinking through critical practices, which we've been rethinking how to situate creative arts thinking away from the old European canon. We're really trying to position our practices in the Asia Pacific region. So we're looking at how to teach people to research. So we'll set up problems and inquiry mode. So in the first year, we will have critical practices units where we give people propositions and historical precedents. So for instance, their students have just finished a module on the manifesto, and they've had to think through what is really important to them in their lives today. And they come up with quite creative solutions, which we request them to do in a time-based media. And a lot of these people are using their phones in quite innovative and creative ways. And then to research their manifesto, rather than it just being through the European canon of modernism to postmodernism, they can look at the theoretical and social concerns of most contemporary art practitioners. And they can look more broadly at art practices in Asia, in Europe, in island cultures that really enriches their. So it's teaching people how to research for their creative practice. We really pride ourselves that all the teachers and staff, from our technicians to our administrative staff, are all practicing artists. So it's often quite surprising for the students when they come across exhibitions that have been done by the person at the front desk. And this is what life in a smaller community such as Tasmania is like, where you are constantly meeting and greeting people in your scholastical life as well as in your professional life, as well as out in the community, and you're seeing these lovely interactive connections. We have a lot of professional opportunities. We open up the school for exhibitions. We have done, as you can see in this image, if you can understand it, there's people looking in the windows where performances are happening, and that is part of the Dark Mofo program that Mona runs. We are still very much based in studio teaching. If we go on to the next slide, I can explain how that works. So as I briefly outlined, in year one, you've got the critical practices unit, which takes up half of the workload. Then there's a studio major unit that students would take, and that can be from painting to ceramics to woodwork. And they trace that all the way through, and they have really core skills. So they're taken through the core knowledge of a discipline such as drawing, where they're introduced to mark making and then to the historical background, and then to developing meaning out of their marks. They take that through to second year. At the same time, they're also going into other studios, such as woodwork or photography. And we're getting this lovely exchange through critical practices, the elective and the major, of people building up quite a broad skill base. So that by third year, all the studios come together in a major unit and they do an interdisciplinary project, which people can still major in one area, say they might want to do their major painting, but the critiques and the discussions are led across all disciplines. So we're all brought together and have critiques and discussions where students can really hear and get feedback on the meaning of their work, rather than it just being so specific to the discipline. So they're getting an idea of what it will be like in the real world. We also bring in industry partners from funding bodies, and our students need to present to them and apply for grants. So there's a lot of interaction between the arts professional bodies and the arts students all the way through from first year to third year. Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, unfortunately, Dr. Claire Conkers, our head of the media school, has been a late apology. So I'll talk a little bit about the courses that we offer from our media school. And our media school is based down at Salamanca, which is on the waterfront in Hobart, and we're co-located with industry. So the media school sits in the same office space as the Mercury, which is the leading newspaper in Tasmania, and also Hype TV, who create videos for film and television. So there's a really great opportunity for students to immerse themselves and to create contacts and connections within industry. We this year have launched our Master of Strategic Communication, and this course was created in response to what we were hearing from local employers in the sector. So employers are increasingly telling us that they are looking for graduates who have really strong communication skills. And that's employers not just in, your traditional sort of, media communications, journalism, but employers across the board. So, from banks to finance companies to tourism industry, they're all telling us that they really are looking for graduates with those communication skills, which is why we've created this particular course. It's taught, as I said, from Hobart. It's a 1.5-year full-time course. And it very much draws on our research expertise and the industry connections that we have. It's taught in blended mode, so that means that there are intensives, there's some online delivery, and there will be, hopefully, when things return to normal, face-to-face classes as well. Through the course, students will build a practical portfolio that they can then take out when they leave our campus. Students can choose to either have a research-led focus for their course, or they can have a practice-led focus for their course, and they will leave with a portfolio in either research or practice, depending on the approach that they've taken. The Master of Strategic Communications provides 3 streams. So students will choose to either specialise in arts, events and cultural communications. So that's talking about the role that arts plays in our everyday life. It leverages the connections that we have across the arts and culture community here. And it looks at how events bring us together and how we communicate that to the community around us. There's a stream of science communication, so that's looking at how do we actually take science and evidence to communicate that in a variety of forums, whether it's to the general public, whether it's to inform government policy. So it's really about translating the scientific knowledge into accessible communications forms. And then the third stream is public relations. And that's public relations responding to the changing climate out there. So understanding social media and how that plays an incredible role in public relations. So it's quite a flexible degree that's offered in multiple forums, and the students get to choose that elective that or that specialisation that suits them. It is a nested degree, so students can either choose to do the full Master of Strategic Communications, or they can do a graduate certificate, which is a single semester, a graduate diploma, which is a full year, or the master's course, which is a 1.5-year program. We also offer undergraduate Bachelor of Media, which is a 3-year or equivalent course. And again, students can opt to have one of 3 specialisations. So students will choose a specialisation in screen, a specialisation in news and journalism, or the strategic communications stream of it. And again, it's very much practice based and student led. So the students will build a portfolio of work during their course that is relevant to their chosen specialisation. It's practice-based, so all students have the opportunity to undertake an internship, and that's where our co-location with industry becomes really valuable. So we have students who are doing internships at the Mercury newspaper, we have students who are doing internships at ABC News, we have students who are doing internships with Hype TV and a whole range of other organisations across the state. We've also got students who are doing internships with our festival partners as well. So the structure of the course, and Claire would have been able to talk to this in a great deal of detail, but I'll just put up the slides there that sort of show the structure of the course over 3 years. So there are core units that students are all required to study. In years 2 and 3, they do media projects. So that's student-led, practice-based learning in their chosen specialisation. And then what's beautiful about this degree is that there is an option then to study cross-listed units, so units from another discipline. So students might, for example, choose to study electives, for example, from our politics and international relations discipline. So they come out with a Bachelor of Media with a specialisation in news and journalism, and a number of subjects that have been studied in politics and international relations. So, and there is a great deal of breadth in terms of what those students can choose for their electives. For those second majors that I was talking about, we have a number of recommended second majors. So it's not exclusive, but these are ones that we believe fit quite nicely with the Bachelor of Media. So creative arts, marketing, English, politics and international relations, justice studies, sociology and criminology. So as you can see, graduates will come out with a deep understanding of media and breadth of understanding across a second chosen major. So I'm going to hand over now to Dr. Arabella Tenniswood-Harvey, who is our Head of Music.
Thank you very much, Tris, and it's been lovely hearing everybody else's presentations as well. So the Bachelor of Music is a 3-year degree taught in our new facility, the Hedberg, which has just opened in the city centre. It's a fantastic building that's a partnership project between the Theatre Royal, which is Australia's oldest working theatre, the state government and the University of Tasmania. So the university has facilities on the ground floor, the 4th floor and the 5th and 6th floors. And music is the university's main activity in the building, along with theatre. So it's fantastic that we're starting to collaborate more with music and theatre students together in the same building. On the ground floor, we have 2 fantastic performance venues, one of which is the salon, which you will have seen in those early slides. It has fantastic sculptural wood effect on the walls. And this is linked to the recording suite. So it's really the heart of this facility's fantastic recording facilities. It's an analog recording console, which has been recently installed from America. And that has a suite of recording rooms around it, fantastically soundproofed, and linked directly to the salon, which is a lovely medium-sized performance space suited for more intimate musical performances. Also on the ground floor, we're opening up a recital hall, which will become completed in May. We're very much excited about that. And this recital hall will be special because it has quite sophisticated variable acoustics. So it'll be possible to change the acoustic properties of the room both physically and digitally. So these 2 spaces will really offer us a lot of flexibility in terms of the types of musical performances we put on and the ability to stage performances at the same time, including with theatre. So this is great for us because our program is very diverse. We value and treat equally all types of musical expression. So we're really offering students training in a wide gamut of musical styles and genres, and it's very much a practice-based degree. So you can see in the second point there that we have a number of musical specialisations the students can study, and these are all practice-based. So if you're a performer, you might identify as a classical musician or a jazz and a popular music performer. If you like to create your own musical work, you might consider yourself to be working within the classical composition stream, or you might be working within the commercial music creation field. And this stream is really about writing for film, writing for video game, those types of industries where you're actually writing music to a brief, producing music for a brief. Music technology is another stream which is really growing and fantastically suited now to our facilities at the Hedberg. And in this stream, the students are studying aspects such as recording music, so audio production, but also generating music through music software. So there are the two sort of key aspects of that stream. Songwriter, they're developing their own songs, so it's really the marriage of lyrics and music. And with the songwriter, music technology and commercial music creation streams, they're producing a portfolio of work every semester. Classical performers and jazz and popular music performers are producing a public presentation of their work. And the classical composers are also producing folio assessment tasks. You see there we also have had currently two other streams, one called dual practice and one called broad practice. And the dual practice is really fantastically flexible because it allows students to identify as two things. So it may be that you're both a classical pianist and you want to compose your own music. So you're really taking from the composition stream and the performance stream. Or at the moment we have one saxophone student who's studying both classical saxophone and jazz saxophone. Many students are doing commercial music creation and music technology in a dual practice approach. So this is a great opportunity for us to be able to be flexible and to provide the students with the combination of skills development that they are wanting. At the heart of our performance program are our ensemble activities. So we run a number of large ensembles, orchestra, a wind ensemble, vocal ensemble that focuses more on classical repertoire, a gospel choir. We have an experimental music ensemble where students are generating their own work and really working across streams. We have a drum corps, like the types of military drum work you'd see on a tattoo production. It's very exciting. The smaller ensembles include a brass ensemble, a string orchestra, and then a whole range of jazz and popular music ensembles where students are really able semester by semester to experience different styles within the jazz and popular music field. And with all of these, we have public performances. So students are performing regularly to the community and developing those essential performance skills. There's a little note there too about the audition. So for all of our students do audition. It's either a live audition, they can send in a link, they can send in some other sort of recorded audition or a portfolio which we assess. As we move into the future, this degree will change a little to be more similar to the one you just saw for media. So we will also be developing a new degree which will allow students to take a second major. And this will really facilitate some wonderful interdisciplinary practice across the School of Creative Arts and Media, enabling students, for instance, to take a major in music plus a major in theatre, or a major in music and a major in fine arts, or a major in music and a major in media, any combination, as well as, of course, a major in music and anything outside our School of Creative Arts and Media. So this is an exciting development which allows for even more flexibility than our dual practice stream had. But just to talk a little bit about the current degree, so you can see at the left there you have the music practice major, and this will continue in the new degree. So essentially music practice units are where the students develop their essential skills according to their specialisation. So for performers, that involves one-to-one tuition, it involves group workshops, performance classes, and it involves participation in an ensemble. For songwriters, CMC, commercial music creation, music technology, and composition, they do a mixture of some one-to-ones, some group classes, and then a lot of project work in those specialisations. The theory minor, you can see it's linked to the music practice major. So for musicians, the study of theory is very much connected with the type of music that they are performing or creating. And so we've offered theory in classical music, jazz and popular music, and an applied popular music theory stream. So these are linked directly to the major the students are taking. Degree core knowledge there, you can see, has a mix of extra skills, so skills that are really extending the musician, and they are addressing many professional skills, so being able to write about music, whether it's music reviews or presenting your own biography or presenting program notes for the works you're about to perform. The music business is introducing students to core aspects of being a musician, working within the industry, and how this operates in Australia. At the second year level there, you've got the recording musician and the electronic musician. And core to our thinking here is that all students, regardless of their specialisation, should have and require some digital literacy. So the ability to work with music software, the ability to work in a studio setting with a click track, for instance. And then under that you have the music creation units, and again we thought it's very important that all students are creating their own work. So it doesn't matter if you're a classical performer that's generally interpreting existing works from the past. In these units you're actually creating your new work, and this is also where we're discussing a lot of contextual issues around music. To the side of that you've got shaping the global sound cloud and music, mind and body. And these are extending students' contextual understanding. The music, mind and body is part of a suite of units in the creative arts and health area, which the university is really starting to offer very strong units in. And this is engaging with music psychology as well as the health benefits of music and the arts. And shaping the global sound cloud is engaging with popular culture and the global global effects of the online environment. Thanks, Tris.
Amazing, thanks Arabella. So I've just got a couple of testimonials from our students and graduates up here on the screen. So we've got Lauren, who studied theatre and performance with us. I used to think that studying theatre meant you could be an actor, writer or director, but you can be so much more than that. The fact that we've been able to collaborate with the Unconformity Festival has given me even more options. I won't read all of those out loud, but you know, I guess this goes to show that it is a rich learning experience for our students. So I'll just talk quickly about graduate outcomes for creative arts and media, because I know that's a question that your prospective students will ask, and particularly in the creative arts. So we have surveyed our graduates, and close to 80% of our media and communication graduates have found full-time employment after graduating, and that is much higher than the national average of 60%. The median full-time salary for media and communications graduates is $76,700. So that's, again, much higher than the national average of $50,000. And 96% of our media and communications graduates were satisfied with the undergraduate course. And again, that's much higher than the national average of 80%. So we're really pleased with those outcomes for the media school. And what's really interesting is that government data is showing us that demand in Australia for highly skilled creatives is on the rise. So government forecast is that employment across creative arts and performing arts will grow by 30% above the national industry average in the next 5 years. For creative arts undergraduates, the median full-time starting salary is $55,000. Again, that's significantly higher than the national average. So we're expecting, we're seeing really strong outcomes for our graduates, and we're forecasting that those employment opportunities will continue to rise over the next 5 years. So 5 things to remember about our Creative Arts and Media School. So the work integrated learning opportunities that we give to our students, the rich exhibition and performance program that's on offer, the opportunity for students to really engage with internationally acclaimed creatives on our campus and in the community that surrounds us, the incredible campuses and purpose-built buildings and facilities that we have, and the practice-based emphasis on learning by making. So we've got time now for some questions if people have some questions that they'd like to send through on the chat. So I've got a question here about alumni. A question whether we have any notable alumni that that you could tell us about. Jan?
Hi, yes, we've got some really world famous alumni. A recent one is Julie Goff, Dr. Julie Goff, who has had exhibitions internationally in biennales. She is now working in the Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery, and she's a Tasmanian Indigenous artist. So we're very proud of her. We've had some very famous printmakers. It's seen as a really strong field here in there. We've got Raymond Arnold, who has worked closely in France and on Aboriginal communities. Milan Milojevic is a very strong printmaker who works in the digital art field. So we really have gone into that space. So yeah, we've got a very strong field. We're really proud that recent graduates picked up by commercial galleries, unlike any other art school really I've seen. And although we're quite small, we are always included in any national overview. So for our honours programs, we always have a finalist in the nationwide selection of artists that's held in Perth in Western Australia. Thank you.
We have Paige Rattray, is a graduate of the previous course here. She's an associate director at the Sydney Theatre Company and an award-winning director. Theatre, as people are probably aware, it's a long apprenticeship, and it takes a long time to become very proficient and well-known professionally in this field. But we have a lot of other recent graduates who have received work in Tasmanian festivals. We've also generating new work with theatre companies within our communities in Tasmania.
Yeah, and I'd add to that that a lot of our students go into very diverse fields. So musicians are working in the education environment, working in schools, working in universities. They're working as sole traders, essentially, as performers who might be working locally or internationally. They're engaging in larger musical ensembles such as orchestras, and often take quite interesting paths. I had a piano student a few years ago who had come to us via Singapore, and she was an excellent pianist, and then went and did a PhD in music psychology and started doing studies on twins. And this is the field that she's continued in Melbourne. So it's really interesting seeing the direction these students take when they find their own interest.
Great. I have one more question as well, and it's we've been asked if you could share a little bit about your own creative background.
Yes. I'm I'm a practicing artist and an academic. I very much teach through my research. So I'm very much a place-based artist where I do immersive work in works on paper. It's very much influenced by Aboriginal artists I've worked with, and also with Chinese and Japanese artists. I'm a printmaker who works with large installation works. I have constant exhibitions. I've got an exhibition at the moment up in the Maitland Regional Art Gallery, which is seen as, which is a highlight on the future of printmaking, which is how it's being pitched, that this hybrid form. So it's quite exciting to have been selected for that. I give a lot of presentations internationally. I've presented in China, in the United Arab Emirates, in New Zealand. And so I'm very interested in talking across cultures, and how when we are brought together into a space, how difference can occupy the same space. So I really see it, the art school, as a field of creative ecology, where all the differences actually make up a really rich environment. And so I've learned a lot through working alongside people in woodwork. I've learned digital making skills and using the CNC routers, as well as doing small scale work, working with people who do jewellery. So in the art school, even for the lecturers, we really benefit from a really rich relationship amongst our peers. Thank you.
Yep, I'm just seeing who's going to talk
go.
next. Okay, so I'm a classical pianist. I trained quite intensively in Melbourne, studied piano from the age of 5. As a pianist, I've performed a lot as a chamber musician, so working with 1 or 2 other people. I've produced a number of CDs which are available on the Move Records label, a Melbourne-based label. And recently, I, like Jan, have really enjoyed working with my colleagues from other streams within the music program. So last semester, working with a colleague who's from the jazz and popular music stream, and having sort of cross-stream engagement in that way. So that's really extended my practice to be more experimental, to engage in improvisation, which is fantastic. So we're all constantly learning and expanding and passing that sort of approach onto our students. I also did a PhD in art history. So when I came back from Melbourne, I studied here at the Hunter Street campus, where fine arts is taught. So I can say that this is a fantastic building. It's a fantastic fine arts program. And my interest in this area now is in the way that music is represented in visual culture.
And I'm a theatre director and playwright and dramaturg of 30 years practice, mainly in Melbourne and regional Victoria and South Australia. So I'm new to the world of academia, and my work is very much practice as research. My PhD was on early Australian theatre practice, 1830 to 1850, especially looking at the women who made a big contribution in that era of Australian theatre, foundational Australian theatre history. And so my work is very much about taking the archive onto stage and finding a way to embody the ghosts of the past, and thinking about who they were as performers and as people.
So interesting. Arabella, I have another question for you, and that's, what are the strengths of the University of Tasmania's music program, perhaps compared to other institutions that deliver a Bachelor of Music?
I think probably our biggest strength is our diversity. So the various specialisations that a student can study in a small place like Tasmania is really very exciting. And we have a fantastic staff, profile staff members, which is supplemented by many sessional teachers. So we're really able to adapt to the students' interests and skills. I think also we are very adaptive in that we assess each student's audition or folio but then we're able to work with them on a tailor-made program. So we're not working so much to a set syllabus, if you like, but able to work with each student individually. And I think this really makes us quite unique.
Thank you. I think that's all the questions that we have for you. Thank you so much to everybody for listening in. Thank you to Arabella, Jan and Jane for sharing your expertise and your knowledge of your courses with us today. You know, we would love to see as many of you out there come to visit us at the University of Tasmania and to have a look at our beautiful spaces and to meet our staff and our students here. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.